Welcome in, everybody, to Prime 3 Radio. This is your podcast where we're talking about all things sports, all things culture. Started off my original podcast where I was interviewing people that come from the fitness world. I myself, being a personal trainer, I kind of took to that right away and wanted to get my feet wet as far as getting a podcast off the ground and learning the process behind editing and scheduling topics and whatnot. So learned a lot through that whole process. Very excited to be here today. I was really crunching my brain together and trying to figure out what it was I wanted to talk about. I knew right away that I enjoyed hosting a show. I just wanted to find something that I would really enjoy doing the research, and fitness is definitely something I enjoy. But it is not. It is not. It is not something that I talk about 24/7. So I figured, why not pick something I grew up with, sports. I was really into the sports culture growing up, so collected the baseball cards, the magazines. I've always noticed what shoes. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the website, what the pros wear. So something similar to that, where they're basically logging every single thing that a player is wearing. Whether it's accessories, shoes, jewelry, no matter what it is, it has the total breakdown of basically everything. That a player is wearing, and that's just one example of sports culture. I mean, the topics can go on. The diversity is so large here with the sports culture community that I was actually really fired up to start this show. So very happy to be here today. Let's go ahead and get this going. So with everything going on, the number one thing talked about right now in sports is the NFL draft. So the 2021 NFL draft is going to be a big one. Everyone's talking about the quarterbacks. The talent and receivers is very, very deep in this one. There's some really good defensive backs, some really good linebackers. There are, I mean, geez, everybody that's coming into this draft is a great athlete. That's kind of how I go into it with my mindset. So really fired up to dig into some of these player breakdowns that I have for you. Unfortunately, I was not able to get to all the positions. Definitely wasn't able to get to every single player, but I'll share with you what I have. And as we all know, it's a, you know what I mean? It's a toss up. We don't know what moves are going to happen on draft day. We don't know who's going to be trading up and for what. Obviously, every team need is different, and every coach's and GM's approach is a little bit different as well. So never know what you're going to get on draft day. I know we, up to this point, I myself have looked into, a ton of different breakdowns and started looking into some of the mock drafts around just kind of around YouTube and the internet and stuff, just on the NFL website, just kind of trying to get a feel for what everyone is thinking. But that's something I like to do after I've already learned a little bit more about what players we will be looking for to be taken off the board in the first or second round, in particular. Again, these are just predictions. Obviously, I will probably get most of them wrong, but that is okay. I wanted to record this today for context, hoping to get a little bit better, background and stuff for you guys eventually. But for now, I wanted to get the ball rolling and really get this going. If you have any comments for me, any suggestions, you're always welcome to follow. You're always welcome to subscribe below. Go ahead and click that link. If you have any questions or comments for me, I always appreciate it. Sports and especially right now, the NFL draft is something I can go back and forth. And I mean, hopefully through that, you guys will get to know me a little bit better and what it is that I like, what teams that I follow. Since we are talking about football right now, I am a Las Vegas Raiders fan. It took me a while to say that Las Vegas. I don't know if you caught that little hitch there in that little intro. So I was really attached to Oakland, but I understand why the move had to be made, and I'm gonna ride with my team. So here we go with the silver and black. So before I go into breaking down a few of these players here for this episode, I just wanted to set a little bit of context for you guys so you know how it is I kind of dive into this information. So growing up, I watched a ton of sports. I mean, football, baseball, basketball in particular, scattered around a couple of the other sports here and there, but football, baseball, basketball is something that I was really into. As I said before, I collected all the trading cards, memorabilia. It's been really fun to break some of that stuff out and go through it. And now that I have kids and stuff, it's going to be really, really exciting to kind of take that trip down memory lane. And I'm hoping a few of you people can comment, and maybe we can get that dialogue going a little bit, and maybe we can learn some stuff about each other. So again, going back to the sports that I grew up with, I was really, if we're going to talk about football specifically today, so I'll stick with that for now. Um, when it came to football, I was really, really big into the draft. So I watched some college football, and then leading up to the draft, back then there wasn't no internet, there wasn't any YouTube that I can go and pull up a quick video and check out all this game film. So I had to basically get my hands on everything that I could read, whether it was magazines or the newspaper, the good old newspaper. I remember taking clippings from that and trying to get an idea of where some of these prospects were going to go. And interesting fact about me at that time, when I was just a kid, I actually grew up a Niners fan. So hope to get into that story a little bit more down the road as we go. And you guys will learn a little bit more of why I had to make the switch. But I could easily get down a rabbit hole talking about that. So I will hope to cover that in a future episode. If you have any specific questions about that, go ahead and throw it out there. So going back to the draft, again, I was clipping out, or I was cutting out clips of the newspaper. So on the day of the draft, what I would do is I would get the newspaper. It would have the two editors' mock drafts on the back. So I would fold it into like a pamphlet style. And what I would do is, as the drafts were being read off, I would go through and I would mark it up. I would do check mark circles, crossing players out, and trying to get a correct list of where these players were going to go. And from there, I would kind of go through there and do my breakdowns and at whatever my capacity was at the time as far as knowledge. So that being said, most of the football I have been watching is NFL football. Got really excited this past year. My cousin and my brother actually started a fandom podcast for NFL fans. So they basically find influencers and social media people, if you will, and other fans, and they basically try to find at least one fan from every 32 team. And they got over 32 episodes now, but they basically interview every fan about how it is they became a fan of their team. So got some good stuff there. Had a chance to take a trip down memory lane with them as they were getting ready for the show. So that just kind of lit something up inside me and got my wheels spinning. Decided to get really deep back into the draft again this year for the first time in a few years. And man, once I got started, it was hard to turn it off. So going back into the draft, I just started pulling up a bunch of film. And this is where I will go into my approach and how I sort of break down all this information. So pulling up film, what I like to do is I like to watch, and it's not available for every player, but I like to go up and try to find film that is put together and broken down by each game. Obviously, there's not a ton of film on every single prospect that we have looking, but I take what I can get and I kind of go from there. So once I have the film breakdown, I try to look at every single snap, whether the player is involved in the particular play or whether they're running some type of fake or a block. I try to keep my eyes on them at all times. And the whole time the film is in mute. So the reason for that is I try to study a player's movements and their tendencies, and I try not to have any outside influence while I'm actually going down into the breakdown of the player. So I try to form my own opinions and my own reasons why I do or don't like some of the attributes, and then I note those down and I move on to the next player. So once I'm able to sort of formulate my own opinion on the player, I'll start look at other analyst breakdowns, so whether it's a smaller show, a smaller podcast, or one of the bigger, NFL, CBS, whatnot. I like to listen to the conversation around the way they think about players. And the most exciting thing to me is that they're all so different. Of course, we all like to look back at some of the drafts from the past and see some of the potential stars that a lot of people had circled, that a lot of GMs had circled. And I think by doing that, it kind of reminds us how hard this process actually is, So I've kind of traded some ideas with people on why I think certain players should be ranked above others. Some people get a little bit passionate about it, but I think we all got to remember, one, we're not getting paid to make these drafts, but two, most of these are wrong. And even if we do guess the right player for the right selection, it's still got to pan out all the way through. We still got to find out if that player is going to be a good professional. We got to find out if they're going to get into the right program for them. So many different intangibles that go into a prospect, that go into the process of an NFL team scouting a player. And yeah, I don't want to make it sound like I know everything, because I don't. This is just something that I love to look into. And I mean, going back to the whole fitness thing, I have over 10 years experience as a corrective exercise specialist. So I work with a lot of injuries, a lot of muscular imbalances. I work with a lot of athletes. So my mindset now compared to when I was a kid is obviously much, much different. And with all my experience with training and being able to work with biomechanics and whatnot, it's definitely given me a different perspective on how I break down a player. So I like to look at different movements, tendencies, whatnot. I mean, because going into this, anyone that's invited to the combine, anyone that's invited to the pro days, anyone that's asked to come out for the draft, I mean, in my head, they're already a stud. They're playing at the school they're playing at for a reason. You know what I mean? They're highlighted and they're called and they're pulled on to they're pulled into the list of prospects, if you will. As one of the top players in the nation. So hats off to all these guys. I mean, in my eyes, they're going into this, they're all studs. They're all great athletes. The draft is about finding the cream of the crop. And from there, it's not always in the first or second round. A lot of these teams are famous for snagging players in the sixth or seventh round. So might be fun to talk about some of those players a little bit down the road as well. Obviously, Tom Brady being one of the most mentioned at pick number 199. And of course, he ended up being greatest quarterback of all time with 7 rings. So that is just one example. And obviously, Tom is an incredible athlete. But again, something else we can get into a little bit down the road. Okay, so that's enough about my breakdown. If you have any questions, again, you're always free to comment and throw those in. You might give me some new ideas and vice versa. So I always think the interaction is cool and I welcome it. Always looking for ways to get better. So bear with me here. Let's get this going. So today, I'm going to go ahead and just jump it right off the bat with quarterbacks. Quarterbacks are my favorite position to break down. Right behind that, very close second, is defensive backs. I'm hoping to get into that one in the next couple episodes or so. Obviously, you can't wait too long. We got the draft coming up. Today is the 28th. The draft starts tomorrow, Thursday, the 29th. So I at least wanted to get one episode or 2 episodes in, maybe a couple of player breakdowns for you. I'll try to keep it short and sweet. But basically, I wanted to go ahead and get some stuff documented before the draft, just so I can look back and kind of see what kind of see just what matched and what didn't, and again, mentioning even after the draft, we still got to wait a few years down the road to see if these players are going to fit. You never know what could happen in the NFL. There's always some craziness going on. So back at it. Let's get to the quarterbacks here. Love to go through and look at quarterback film. Obviously, the quarterback is considered by many the most complicated position on the field, which I understand, especially in the NFL. You know what I mean? Those playbooks are quite sizable. And I mean, you can have the best play caller, the best playbook, but if you don't set up your players with the right system, with the right momentum, if you will, or give them the chance to gain that momentum, if you will, it's not going to turn out very successful. This is a win now league, as we've all seen. So it almost seems at times that nobody's job is safe. So yeah, especially the quarterbacks. I'm digressing a little bit, but yeah, quarterback, super important. Obviously, if you don't have a good leader on the field, it's very hard to get anything done. So Going back into the quarterbacks at number 6, I have Trey Lance. Now, I know a lot of people aren't going to like this, but the main reason that I have him at number 6 is just due to his lack of experience. North Dakota State. I feel like they relied very, very heavily on his legs. And I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I said before, I know a lot of people aren't going to agree with this ranking system, but bear with me. I think Trey Lance is an incredible athlete. I think he has a ton of potential. But I know a lot of people have him at number 3 right now on their QB rankings, which is fair to say. I mean, you could be right, I could be the wrong one here, but I have him at 6 due to lack of the experience. Again, North Dakota State, to me, they seem to rely very heavily on his legs, so he ran about half the time. um, Seemed to be sort of a simplified offense where he was more of a one read guy. He would take the snap, kind of look to see if his guy was there. If he wasn't there, he'd tuck the ball and run. And man, what an incredible athlete. This guy is not afraid of contact. This guy will not back down from a linebacker. But with that being said, in the NFL, I mean, we know that it's good to know how to slide in some way, shape, or form. The linebackers, the defensive linemen, a lot bigger, a lot faster in the NFL, but that goes without saying. Um, and again, I mean that sliding critique right there, that it's very common for athletic quarterbacks. Any quarterback that's going to tuck and run, um, they very commonly have to be taught how to slide, or just to be reminded to get down on the ground and get on to the next play and stay healthy, for the next drives to come. So again, not afraid of contact, big, strong athlete. He has a cannon for an arm. I know he has some accuracy issues. What I would like to see for Lance is for him to be drafted into a system with a good veteran in front of him. I think that he should sit for at least 1 year and just take some practice reps, get with the coaches, get in the game room, and just contact as many veterans as he possibly can. Just judging from his interviews and just listening to the analysis that others have around this kid, he just seems very coachable. Seems to have a very good head on his shoulders, and from what I'm hearing, he's a very hard worker. So to be a top 6 quarterback in my eyes, I think is an amazing achievement in itself. And man, this kid's worked incredibly hard to get here. I would really love to see him go into a system that makes him successful. So Trey Lance, I have him at number 6. So yeah, that's one thing I try to keep into mind as well when I'm thinking about these players is um, I try to think of what type of system would be best for them, and I try to include that in here. Uh, I don't think I think it's pretty rare that you can just take a player and plug and go, and you can just boom move right on without any hiccups. Again, very hard in the NFL. So just a couple more things about Trey Lance. I don't think he'll be able to run as much in the NFL. Again, big, strong athlete, good legs, good feet. But I think that he's going to have to learn to sit back a little bit more, even if he's scrambling, to keep his head up a little bit more and sort of let the play progress. Um, Another thing I noticed on him is when he drops back for passes, he almost seemed a little bit more flat-footed than when he was dropping back into a designed quarterback draw. So I don't know if anyone else has caught that on film, but on passing plays, he seems a little bit more flat-footed, which is okay. I don't want to say it's okay, but he does look relaxed. He looks composed back there when passing the ball, but looks a little bit more flat-footed. I feel like when it's a play fake designed for him to run, uh, he sort of sells the pass with a little bit more footwork, if that makes sense. So again, there's just some stuff he needs to work on. Very raw, but I could see that being an upside just because maybe he hasn't developed too many bad habits. And if given to the right, or if he lands in the right system, I think the upside for this kid is very big. So that's Trey Lance right there. Let's move it along. For my 5th quarterback, I have Kellen Mond. Now, Kellen Mond was number 6 at first on my list, but he has moved up. So the more that I watch this kid's film, the more that I like him. He seems to have really good footwork in the pocket. He's not afraid to hang in there and take a shot. He's athletic enough to scramble. And what I really like about him is he keeps the ball up at all times. It's really good to keep the ball up, only because you can get rid of it faster. If you're holding the ball down low, it's easily stripped. Takes a lot longer to get that ball up next to your ear and let that thing fly. So really like the idea that he keeps the ball up. But with that being said, he does seem a little bit tense. He plays the game a little bit tight. You can tell in his work, he's a very technical quarterback, but I think that he needs to loosen up. A lot of analysts talk about backyard football. I think Aaron Rodgers is the best backyard football player I've ever seen. And I mean that with the utmost respect. That guy is amazing. I feel like you give him a team without any reps, and I feel like that guy will find a way to make it happen. I think I think it's going to be incredibly hard for Kellen Mond to try to add that level of backyard football into his game. It would be difficult for anyone, but I think that if he does loosen up and he does add a little bit of that he can be a smart quarterback. And again, good athlete, seems like he has a great head on his shoulders, comes from a big time program. And I just think if this kid is coachable enough that he can loosen up, and the right coach will be able to identify that and be able to help him progress into being hopefully a starting quarterback one day. So really like Kellen Mond. I really like the way the ball comes off of his hand. It just seems like he has really good zip on the ball for me. And again, he likes to hang in there, which to me says that he has the potential to let the play develop. One interesting thing about Mond, and this is what sort of moved him ahead of Trey Lance for me, is his experience. So he took over the starting spot at Texas A&M his freshman year. I believe it was the second or third game. I believe it was the second game. Starting quarterback went down. Mond steps in and takes over. From there, he never gave the spot up. He started the rest of his time there. So just about 4 years with a couple of games shy. So he has been able to get a ton of experience there. And he has the most experience actually of the top 6 quarterbacks I have on my list here. So I think there's an incredible potential for this kid. And I think that, again, if he is placed in the right system, I think that he can do a lot for a lot of these teams here in this league. So moving on here to the number 4 quarterback, I have Justin Fields out of Ohio State. So, I forgot to mention too, Kellen Mond went to Texas A&M. I'm sure a lot of you knew that, but just wanted to show my respect there. Moving on to number 4, Justin Fields, Ohio State University. So this guy has been talked about a ton the last few weeks leading up to this draft. And man, this guy has all the tools. He has all the measurables. You know what I mean? He can run, he can throw, he can take contact. And man, when I say he can throw, he can throw. This guy has a cannon. Big and strong, and seems like a likable guy. I obviously don't know him personally, but just judging on what other coaches are saying about him, and seeing a couple of his interviews, it just seems like this guy's a fun guy to be around, and he's ready to learn. So I know he's been knocked a little bit just with accuracy issues, and that's kind of what I noticed as well. He has a big arm. A lot of times quarterbacks with big arms tend to either force the ball, they tend to let the ball sail a little bit. I've seen a little bit of both with Fields. He's very, very good at buying time with his legs, but I think that sometimes when he scrambles, he doesn't look up for long enough. And with that being said, he doesn't always hang around in the pocket long enough for a play to develop. Now, obviously, being in a quarterback standing in the pocket with everything going on around you is an incredibly difficult thing to do. It's a lot to ask from anybody, but in the NFL, it's going to be moving a little bit faster. And I think that if you're not allowing your receivers, your running backs to be able to get into the space that they need, not giving them enough time to be able to develop their routes and whatnot, it's going to be really, really hard to instill any type of offense that requires more of a complex approach. So a couple of the things that I'd like to see Fields work on is basically just going through his progressions. I'd like to see him look the safety off a little bit more. But with that being said, again, just judging off some of the stuff I'm hearing him, he seems incredibly coachable, and coming from a big time program like Ohio State, where, I mean, you're in the spotlight all the time. I don't see why that can't happen. I don't see why he can't be a good quarterback for this league. But again, a couple of things I would like for him to work on is, again, going through his progressions, being able to check down a little bit more, or basically going back to the progression thing, is hanging in the pocket. If you make one read and you take off, and there's nowhere to run, you're either going to get crushed or you're going to turn the ball over. So again, has all the tools, has all the ability in the world. I would like to see him sharpen up just a little bit. He's another guy that I would like to see be brought onto a team where he is not the starter right away. I think if Justin Fields can sit for a year and just absorb everything that he can, I could see him taking over a team later on, maybe his first year at best. But I really think it'd be good for him to sit and absorb as much knowledge as he can. That way he's better equipped to take over an NFL squad. For the number 3 quarterback, I have Mac Jones. Now, Mac Jones is probably my favorite quarterback in this draft. Usually I'm not a big fan of Alabama quarterbacks, but I feel like Sarkisian over at Alabama had opened, I feel like he opened up the playbook a little bit more, and this is just judging on watching the film from 2020. There was a lot more play fakes, a lot more motions, I feel like, than there had been in past years for Sarkisian. So I think that's a huge positive for Mac Jones. That tells me that they realized the intelligence, the football IQ of this kid, and they were able to implement more stuff. And it sounds like it got him ready, better prepared for the NFL, and, I mean, going into the draft. So a couple of things I really like. I think he is the best in this draft at looking off the safety. Also one of the best at going through his progression. So if you watch him on some of these films, he's dropping back, he's in the pocket, and he's moving in and out, sort of similar to a common bag drill we always see with NFL quarterbacks, where they have the ball up and they're stepping in and out of the bags. Jones almost takes that and puts that right back on the field. So love watching him go through his progressions, look off the safety. He's not afraid to throw the ball away, and he will definitely check down whenever he needs to. Also, his awareness is incredible. He knows where everyone is supposed to be on the field. Not only have I heard many coaches and fellow players say that about him, but where I noticed it the most is actually a few of the times when he threw the ball away. When he threw the ball away, almost before it even leaves his hand, he's already looking at the player that he wants to go talk to be able to address whatever the issue was with that play, in order to move on to the next play and be ready for any similar situations that might present themselves. So obvious field general out there for me. I think he has all the tools. I know he was knocked for his lack of mobility, but if you watch him, he doesn't stand in cement while he's throwing the ball. His feet are active. He's moving in and out of the pocket. He just doesn't look to run. He's not a running quarterback. Can he pick up a few yards to get that first down for you? Yeah, he will not shy away from that. But he is number one looking for a skilled position player downfield to be able to make a play, whether it's a check down, whether it's letting the ball fly. He's looking to give his players an opportunity to succeed. And I really like that about him. Another thing to add on to that is he can make all the throws. He makes all the pro throws. He makes the curls, the outs, and his anticipation of the players coming out of the route is above average. So he can throw guys open. Again, this all comes it all comes back to him knowing where everyone is going to be, being the field general. He knows where the routes are going to end up and where they need to be checked down. So he big time on the pro throws there. I think he's definitely got something. Another thing I've heard as a knock on Mac Jones is his arm strength. I think he has more than enough arm strength to get the ball down the field. I think he can throw the deep ball. I'm not sure where people are getting that. I mean, I know a lot of times when people talk about big arms, they're comparing everyone to Mahomes, and it's like, uh, you're almost setting someone up for failure right there. Not to say that um, there will never be another player quite like Mahomes, but it's pretty hard to just, pick out a few guys and say, well, if you did it like Mahomes, we might give you a little bit of a nudge. But I mean, I'm not saying that's what's going on, but I just think just in general for any of these picks, it's unfair to take one of the great players in the league at this time and say, well, that's the standard right there. Because obviously we don't know when we're going to see another Patrick Mahomes. Moving along, moving back into Mac Jones here. So yeah, his arm strength, I just think it's very sneaky. When I watch it, I think it's obvious, but listening to some of the analysts speak, they don't see it as one of his strong points, which I kind of disagree with there. So there are times where something I'd like to see Mac Jones work on is his driving the ball with his legs a little bit more. So hanging out back in the pocket, he sees someone open that with a tight window, and he's not afraid to fit it in there. But I'd like to see him drive the ball a little bit more with his feet at times when he has a little bit more time to throw. Again, that's a very small critique. I think that he's more than smart enough to be able to correct that and whatever else the coaches ask him to do. So another thing that positive I will say that coaches and players are talking about as far as Mac Jones goes is his photographic memory. They say that he can remember plays from any game on any down, any situation. He knows the entire playbook. In fact, I think he um, taught a lot of the playbook to the staff at Alabama this past year here. So I mean, this guy does his homework. This guy has won multiple honors on the educational side with school. So I mean, he takes care of business. I think he checks all the boxes, and I think um, if he is put into the right offense, man, he can be a starter right now. I know a lot of one little side note I'll add about Mac Jones is not a lot of Niner fans are particularly favoring this opinion of mine, but I think Mac Jones would be best fit for the 49ers. I think with Kyle Shanahan there, the quarterback guru, the offensive mind, I think that he'll be able to adopt a lot of Shanahan's play fake tactics and be able to throw some linebackers off in this league. So I think that with Jones's smarts and Shanahan's methods, I think that right there is a match made in heaven. And for you 49ers fans, I think that could be the quarterback of the future right there if they decide to go that route. So looking for big things for Mac Jones. Now moving on to my number 2 quarterback, another controversial opinion here, but I went with Trevor Lawrence. So anyone that selects Trevor Lawrence or Zach Wilson as their number 1 is going to get a game changer. I think that these two guys can come in and they can change a program now. They both have totally different approaches, but to me, they have all the ability in the world right now. And I think they're ready to play and they're ready to get some things cooking here in the league. So I'm going to go through these explanations here and maybe you'll kind of throw me a bone here and see why I picked him at number 2. So right off the bat, I compared him to Andrew Luck. I first wanted to compare Lawrence to Flacco because obviously Flacco was the first tall quarterback that I could think of, being 6'6", just like Lawrence. But watching Flacco, their games are not anywhere near the same. Now, a couple things I have for concern with tall quarterbacks, especially a 6'6" quarterback, is accuracy issues. Historically, taller quarterbacks have issues with accuracy. They take longer to get rid of the ball. And those are some of the two main things that go into analyzing a tall quarterback. looking at Lawrence, he had no problem with either of these. The ball zips off his hands. His frame is big and strong. He's an athletic kid. He can run. He can take that contact. He's an obvious leader. He's a field general. The reason I compared him to Andrew Luck over Flacco is just his big, strong frame. You can tell his passion for the game is there, but he's not necessarily your raw guy. He's not going to be the cheerleader in the middle of the huddle, but I mean, you give this guy a challenge and he's gonna go into it without blinking. He's not gonna back down. I don't see him as being afraid to put the team on his back, and I also don't see him as a guy who's gonna try to do too much. He seems very aware of himself and what is expected of him. He obviously puts in all the right work if he is in the spot he is in now. No reason why he can't be number one. But coming up here, I'm hoping you'll see why I selected the next QB as my number one draft pick. So for the number one ranked quarterback on my list, I have Zach Wilson from BYU. Now, this guy started at number 2 on my list, but the more I watched him, the more of a fan I became. I mean, talk about field general. This guy's the obvious leader out there. And to me, it's just obvious he's having fun. You know what I mean? Same idea as Lawrence, where he's not going to back down from a challenge. He's going to put the team on his back, but he's a little bit more animated, I guess you can say, with his emotion, with his passion. It doesn't make him better than Lawrence. It gets me a little bit more fired up. Again, I don't think any team could go wrong picking either of these guys, one or two. Again, you're going to get a game changer. I think Mac Jones is ready to play now. Get him the reps, get him going. He can start this upcoming year. Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, I think you implement those guys into your system and you could potentially just change the whole culture of your system and your team. So again, can't go wrong picking either of these guys, one or two. But I picked Zach Wilson just because he just seemed to fire me up a little bit more. So he can make all the throws. His anticipation to throw guys open is great. He makes all the pro throws. He has a great ability to buy himself some time. He's a very athletic quarterback. What I love about him is he can run if he wants, but he a lot of times keeps his head up, again, to be able to give his skilled players an opportunity to take the ball down the field. But man, this guy's not afraid of contact either. If he's running, he's running. He's not afraid to lower his shoulder. He will need to slide a little bit more to be able to increase that longevity, especially in this hard hitting league. But man, I just see this guy as someone that's going to put the team on his back and just go to battle every Sunday. And this might be a surprise to some, but I compared him to Carson Wentz because when I watch Carson Wentz, that guy is just a gamer. Again, you can give him the ball, you give him a team, and he's going to go to battle with his guys. You know that you're going to get a player that grinds every game. You know, you're going to get somebody that's going to go into that locker room and get his guys going, get his guys on the same page. I think Carson Wentz has been very, very much underappreciated. So hoping to talk about that a little bit more. I was kind of pumped up to see him on another team this year. But the reason I compared Zach Wilson to Wentz is just because of his attitude, his presence. To me, it's just very obvious. And again, the more that I watch him, the more I love this kid. I mean, going back to his arm, making all the throws, at some of the angles at which he lets the ball go is amazing to me. Everyone wants to talk about that, turn, spin, 60-yard pass that he threw at his pro day, which is cool. You know what I mean? The pro day is something I like to look at more towards the end after all the film, just to see any of the improvements, any changes that might have been made. And then as always, the footwork. But what impressed me the most about that pass is that actually every quarterback after that included it into their workout. So I don't know if it was them, listening to the hype. It was probably just them listening to their coaches. But for whatever reason, the staff, the players, they felt like that throw had to be included, and it was all based off of Zach Wilson. So kind of a small thing, but that was one of the factors that moved him ahead for me. If I was a GM, which I am not even close, I would take Zach Wilson number one. But again, can't go wrong with Trevor Lawrence at 2 there. So there you have it. Boom. So there we go. We got through 6 quarterbacks today. That was my breakdown. Very excited for this draft to come up. Hoping to share some more sports content with you guys. Again, sports content, sports culture is something that I'm so big into. It was really big for me growing up. And I never thought that I would, be in a situation where I can have, even a small platform to be able to talk about this stuff, talk about the analysis and uh, something that goes a little bit further than just watching the game every week, which I know a lot of us enjoy doing. So yeah, this just gives me a chance to sort of interact with you guys and give my side of things, give my perspective. Again, always looking for feedback, always looking for that dialogue. So if you have any cool ideas for me, you have any questions or comments about either my breakdowns of the players or the way that I approach game film and analysis, please let me know. Very excited to get this thing off the ground and try something new. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and sign off here. Thank you for listening to the Prime 3 Radio, the sports podcast where we're bringing you everything sports culture. I'm your host, Rob Yunez. Thank you so much for being here. Check you out later.